today's video, I'm going to be joined by Ernesto Hernandez, and we're going to be talking about this weird dynamic that we've seen online of like fix and flippers and buy and hold guys pretending wholesalers are horrible publicly, yet like begging them for deals privately, and wholesalers kind of getting up in their ego about how, they're making so much money on their buyers and not really like building sustainable relationships. If you're new to the channel or to wherever you're watching this, my name is Ryan Dossey. We talk about fix and flip, wholesaling, buy and hold, as well as a lot of kind of marketing stuff. Be sure to like and subscribe. Let's dive right in. So today I am joined by Ernesto Hernandez. I'm pronouncing that right, correct? Cool.
You are.
And we just wanted to kind of chat through what the relationship between a wholesaler, a fix and flipper, a buy and hold guy should kind of look like. This is kind of unique because I feel like a lot of the times wholesalers like try to hide how much money they're making or what they're marking a deal up, or a lot of the times buy and hold guys don't like to talk about how well a deal went or didn't for fear that they'll get charged more on the next deal or something of that nature. And there's kind of this like weird trend I've seen on social media, BiggerPockets, Facebook, where it's almost like a battle of the egos of the wholesalers or like the buy and hold guys or the fix and flippers need me. And I just took this dude for a $35,000 fee, like hoorah. And then you've got like the buy and hold and fix and flip guys being like, wholesalers are the scum of the earth. They should all burn in hell, like slow, painful deaths. But then off camera, they're like, yo, do you have any deals I can have? So it's kind of this weird, like, talk one thing publicly, do something different privately. So our thought for kind of this video, just to kind of chat through what this relationship should look like, because Ernesto's made money working with me and I've made money working with Ernesto. And we think that as wholesalers or as buy and hold investors or fix and flippers, understanding kind of the value of this being a good professional relationship is something that needs to be discussed. So Ernesto, what, we don't have to name names or anything. I know you've bought deals from some people that have gone well, you've bought deals from other people that have not. What are some of the things that you look for in a wholesaler or somebody bringing you an off-market deal?
Yeah, no, you're right. I have had some deals that have gone pretty much to plan, and I've had others that had a lot of surprises. And in the spirit of being, just owning up to what happened in the outcome. I mean, ultimately that fell on me. I didn't have a clear kind of due diligence process. And so especially for newbies, it's easy to get caught up in wanting to trust someone or taking their projected numbers for gospel. And the fact of the matter is, like, you can't do that. One of the things that I enjoy about working with you guys is, have a good open relationship with you and Noah in Indianapolis. We had lunch for the first time, or it was dinner actually in July. And what I thought was going to be a 30-minute kind of get together, we ended up turning it into closer to like a 3-hour get together.
Noah will do that to you.
Yeah. And it was cool because we were able to get really, really deep into kind of what we're looking for, how we operate, what are the expectations. And so that led to a relationship in which there's really no surprises. So, you're right. I mean, there is, I think, tension between wholesalers and buyers, especially at this cycle of the market. Deals are very, very scarce. And so if you're a new investor, you probably have the opposite of like commission breath. If you're a real estate agent or really any other industry, instead you have like deal breath. Like, I'm so eager and I want to get started and I want, to put my first or second one behind me, what have you. And then conversely, yeah, you have some wholesalers that will kind of, push the limit of what they can get. And, I think it's important to look at it from both sides of the relationship. But if it's going to be an actual healthy long-term relationship, it's got to be an environment where you're really kind of looking out for each other. There's also this mindset or this approach that, well, the wholesaler should only make X amount of money. There's that frame of thought. Oh, it's not fair that the wholesaler is going to make more than you when you're taking all the risk. Sure. I mean, if you want to see it that way, like, okay. I don't see it that way. I mean, every deal is different. Every seller is different. Whatever you guys were able to arrange with the seller, as long as there's enough meat on the bone for me, I don't really care. And as long as there's no major surprises, knowing that you guys are not inspectors, you guys are not rehabbers, it's my job to verify what, what that's going to look like going forward after I have my first look at that house. I personally don't care how much you guys make. I don't look, I don't check, I don't ask. It's none of my business, as long as, again, I find deals that work for me, and there's little kind of just playing of games back and forth, which I think is part of where this conversation is coming from.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think you're right on so you're not playing games. You're not, it needs to be a professional relationship in which both parties benefit. I think a lot of the times people almost view it as like a shark and a fish, and the wholesaler thinks they're the shark and they're just going to get, they're going to pull one over on this buyer. And I don't even think it's necessarily, I'm going to take advantage of this guy, but it's like, their numbers aren't correct. And I love that you highlighted that of, ultimately it comes back onto you, because that's totally a mindset thing. We're pretty hesitant. We don't really give money numbers. We're not typically like, here's what it's worth. Here's what the repairs are. Here's your profit. Here's how long this will take. Here's like our deals are normally like, here's the address. Here's what we like about it. Here's the pictures. Let us know if you want it. But, a lot of this does come down to mindset. The deals you've bought in the past, you could have totally fell into like the victim role and been like, oh my gosh, this person totally took advantage of me, instead of being like, well, I didn't check my own stuff. Dude, some of my worst deals I've bought were deals I bought from wholesalers, and even some friends of mine that are wholesalers that, I don't know if stuff was hidden or not, or if they just didn't catch it and we didn't catch it till after the fact, but I've got a few properties that I never should have bought. And, better due diligence would have prevented that.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah. I mean, I'll give you two examples. The first one that we did together, I had it inspected, and then the seller on the buying side had it inspected. And then after we close, I get an email from the realtor that represented the buyer, and they're like, hey, we found some rotted subfloor. It's your job to pay for it. I said, respectfully, I inspected it. Here's the inspection report, full transparency. You guys should have got an inspection. Actually, you did, and I saw it, and it didn't come up on either of them. Like, how was I supposed to know that anything was rotted or in bad shape? It's not on me. It's not on you guys. It's not something that anybody can discover. And then coming back to, just again, the level of, I think, mutual respect and just ensuring that we have as clear an expectation as possible. On the most recent deal that we did together, Noah and I were so open that we shared, he shared with me kind of what his contractor estimated it was going to cost to repair. Then I sent my guy over, and the number was about the same. And Noah is like, hey man, I really like your rehab guy. Like, do you mind if I use him for things? I said, absolutely not. So that's how open we are. And that's how little, like, there's no tension. It's, again, that mutual respect is just so important. As a wholesaler, when something's not right, and you still have multiple people out there, investing their time and their energy and their money, hundreds of dollars, for a full home inspection, you're looking at about, $350 per house in Indy. Sewer scope's another about $250. So you're out $600 for a deal that probably didn't add up to begin with. That just doesn't leave a good taste in the mouth of whoever's buying that property from you.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. I mean, one of the benefits we've had in the inventory we choose not to take on is because we are so transparent about it, of like, here's pictures. I mean, we'll literally be like, we think this is a problem, and make sure we have a picture of it. Or, I've never seen this before, let me get a picture of it. I mean, normally on our deals, we're sending out 100+ pictures, and we've got buyers that are out-of-state guys like yourself that don't do inspections. And we've even got local guys that will literally just be like, hey, if it wasn't in your pictures, I trust you guys, so we're good to go. We've got a guy we sell stuff to all the time that I don't think we've ever even met him. It's like, what we send out is good, so he takes it. I think it would be helpful for people watching this if you and I chatted just a little bit about some of the things that I see going on the wholesaler side that I think are kind of sketchy or wrong. And on the end buyer side, if you have a few things in mind that you can share, I think that could be just a good way of like if somebody's a wholesaler vetting a new buyer, how do they know, this guy's legit? If you're talking to somebody who's sending you a deal, how do you know they're legit? Like, how do you know they even have it under contract, right? So a couple things I've seen folks doing lately that like absolutely bothers me. One is properties that are listed on the MLS, where they go under contract for what it's listed for on the MLS and then try to sell it for like $30,000 more. It's like, what value did you add other than like trying to scalp it real quick? And then normally the problem with it is they didn't get a good deal to begin with. So it just like doesn't really make sense. And I think a lot of the wholesalers, particularly new guys, don't realize if I were to send you 3 or 4 bad deals in a row, you'd probably stop looking at my emails. You kind of get to the point of like, this guy isn't capable of producing. So that's one. The second thing I've seen is just numbers that don't make sense. I think if you're sending a deal out to buyers, you don't have to have like thorough done an appraisal. You don't have to have, this is how many screws the house needs. This is how long, your holding cost is going to be. I had a guy recently like slide into my DMs on Instagram and was like, I have a 19 house portfolio that I think you'd be a great buyer for. Like, my mentor told me to reach out to you. And I was like, cool. Dude sends it over, and there's a column where he has the ARVs, which, by the way, we're all super generous. This is hoodie stuff. And he's like, this is worth 2 times what it's actually worth. But I totaled up the column of what he thought everything was worth, and it was like 675 grand. I was like, what are you asking? And he was like, 950, your best offer. And I was like, let me level with you here a second. Like, these are properties rented for $400 a month in the worst parts of Indianapolis. Why on earth would I be willing to pay 133% of what you think they're worth, which was already high? So, flicking out numbers that just don't make sense. And then the other thing we've seen a trend of lately in Indianapolis is price reductions. People are trying to pull, either they're trying to pull massive fees on their buyers, or they're not working their leads hard enough to actually get good deals, where they'll send a deal out and then they'll reduce it, and then they'll reduce it, and then they'll reduce it. And it gets to the point that it's like, I get an email from one of the guys that's doing that, and I'm like, I like that house. I'm gonna wait a week and see if it's cheaper on Monday, right? Because it's just kind of what they've become known for.
Yeah. No, you definitely see a lot of that. You see the deal gets sent out, nobody bites, and then a week later it's been retraded. So that's a good indication that they were probably reaching for the stars to begin with. And as a buyer, you see enough of those emails, and you get hesitant about whether or not that's actually the best, and what the market says is the right price for that property. Another thing you see is you'll see one wholesaler send out a deal, and then a few weeks or even months go by, and now there's a different wholesaler. And I think it's a little less, well, if it was a good deal the first time, it should have closed. So there's no reason why it should have popped up again. And if it's almost immediately, it's almost a little suspect. Like, why did that happen so fast? I could understand if it happens months later, maybe they just don't close the deal, and then somebody really, has a new conversation with that seller months down the road. But that's a little suspect. Yeah, the tying down of MLS deals with no intent to close it, no ability to close it. All you did is tie up inventory. You probably misled that seller to think that you were going to buy it. You strung them along. You take advantage of the inspection contingency. You just drag it out. So I see a lot of that too.
There was a wholesaler recently in Indy. It was one of the most like beautiful public roasts I've ever seen, where they posted one of those deals. It was like on the MLS for 50. They threw it in the local investor group for 90, and somebody tagged the realtor in it. And they're like, yo, isn't this your listing? And it just like blew up into this like war of like, this dude just got like torn apart. But it's like, if you're not adding value, and like, don't get me wrong, I've bought stuff off the MLS before where I was the first person in, I was cash, I've closed on it. And then other people are like, hey, I know you bought it for what it was listed for. Can I buy it from you for more? That's a different scenario than tying up a property that's already being advertised on the free market and hoping some idiot is going to pay you more than what it was listed for. It's just my take on it.
Recently I had a guy from Texas reach out to me. He's a virtual wholesaler, and he started marketing to Indy. Good for him. He sent me a deal, one of which looked somewhat interesting. And two things happened that were just very suspect. On the front end, he sends me his comps, and so I plug in the addresses, and I responded to him. I said, "Hey, man, respectfully, like you have comps from like a mile and a half away, where there's plenty of comps that are within 3 to 4 blocks. There's really no reason for you to be out there. You picked out like the best of the bunch, and you filtered out anything kind of in the middle." So that was a little suspect, and I basically had to correct what I thought was closer to the real ARV. And then about a week later, this was me like one day prior to lining up not all my guys, not a ton of them, but 2 guys that I send out to look at properties. And he messages me. He said, "Oh, by the way, somebody went behind my back and this deal is gone," which just made him look really, really sketchy as a wholesaler going forward. So there's really no reason to believe that if he sends me something in the future, I'm really going to take it seriously.
No, I think that's a good point. One of the questions I ask anytime somebody's like, "Hey, look at this deal. Are you direct to the owner on it? Can you prove it?" Because otherwise I'm not going to waste my time. There's a friend of mine who's similar in a different market, has started virtually doing stuff in Pensacola. I'm looking for some rentals here. And he shot me 2 deals last week that were like priced at 75, 80% of ARV was his asking, not counting that they needed full rehabs. And I hit him back and I was like, "Dude, these are like too thin for me. Like this is what I'm looking for. It's got to have enough meat on it where it makes sense, where I can afford to renovate the property." So I think that's a good point. Thank you for taking the time to check out today's video. A lot of helpful content and advice regarding purchase, rehab, resale, and really to make sure you're not getting taken advantage of when you're working with new folks. We don't ask you for anything on this channel. We're not selling merch or anything. Simply just like the video, subscribe, and turn on notifications if you want to see more stuff like this. Thanks for your time.